All right, how are you guys doing today? I got a interesting video here. I've actually been looking forward to posting up this video ever since I heard about it. So really excited to finally be getting around to it. So what we're going to be talking about today is the new mode that Battlefield is going to be bringing to the game called Squad Conquest. Now this is going to be in their Lightning Strikes chapter, which is their live service. So this is going to be the second installment of that live service. And we have Rush coming, Squad Conquest, I believe 3 new weapons, so 3 new guns and 2 new tanks. So some pretty cool like content that's gonna be. And I have to admit, if they continue with like content updates like this, like that's pretty freaking awesome. The weapons in the tank, being able to have consistent things like that coming out like every month and a half or so. That's pretty awesome. So let's move on to Squad Conquest, as that's really why I'm making this video. So Battlefield 5 Squad Conquest has arrived. So we're going to go through this article right here. We're going to talk a little bit about just kind of my initial thoughts on the game mode, what it could do for Battlefield, maybe how it could pique the interest of competitive players. And later on I'm going to be going over the maps. Just first thoughts on what I think about the maps. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoy the video. So let's go ahead and get on into it. All right, so Squad Conquest, a more concentrated version of the 64-player Conquest mode, is coming to Battlefield 5 as part of Chapter 2 Lightning Strikes and is only going to be available from January 17th through January 30th. So right away, they're telling us that this is not going to be lasting for too long, which is kind of a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, they're only giving us 14 days to really test this out and see how it feels, which is really frustrating, I think, because, I mean, this could actually be a pretty damn cool mode. I mean, 8v8s have always been fun, in my opinion, all the way since Battlefield 3 is when I got into the competitive play, but I know they have gone far back, longer than that. And it's a very fun setting. You have very good players. It is really condensed down to these amazing battles that can take place. A lot of strategies come up in it, and you just have this very fun, consistent playtime. And it's as a player, I miss it. I really do miss it. So seeing them actually saying, hey, you're only going to have this for 14 days really, really sucks. I hope that maybe they give us an opportunity to get it brought back later on, or they do eventually just make this a mode. I don't know, maybe with the announcement of RSP, if that ever happens, which I hope it does. So it is going to be 8 versus 8. And obviously both of the squads on the team are going to be broken up into 4. So there is where we're getting our 8 versus 8 from. It is going to be 3 flags per map. So we are not going to be going in for any kind of like crazy 5 flag, 7 flag maps and try and condense it down for 8 players. No, they are actually making 3 flag maps. And it's really interesting to see, and we'll get into the maps here in just a few seconds, but wow, they are small. And I have to say, they're smaller than some of the old 8v8 maps that we used to play on. But Rotterdam, like, I think it's going to be a pretty fun map. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to what Rotterdam looks like. I have some worries about it, but man, it looks like it's going to be some urban fun. And then, of course, it is going to be on Ares, Rotterdam, and Hamada. Both of those, or all 3 of those maps, are kind of interesting because Hamada is like the biggest map, I believe, and Ares is pretty damn big itself. Rotterdam makes perfect sense in my opinion, but it is interesting kind of seeing how these maps are going to be turning out. So how do you play this particular mode? Well, I'm pretty sure we all know how to play 8v8 Conquest. It's pretty straightforward, and that's what they pretty much go into. It's going to be 8 versus 8. The object of the game is to drain the enemy tickets down to 0. And you are going to be able to do that with holding the majority of the flags. I don't really think that they're going to be throwing any kind of weird gameplay mechanics into it. I mean, I think it's just going to be straight up Conquest with 3 flags, which is perfectly fine with me. I hope that that's the way it stays. And I'm hoping that they don't have any kind of like weird comeback mechanics or like the 1 flag actually drains tickets or anything like that. I hope that it does stay as a true Conquest style of play. It does change up the maps, which we've talked about here in just a few seconds. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some of my worries for this particular game mode. So as of right now, Squad Conquest is going to be coming out. I imagine it's going to be in their matchmaking only. There's not going to be any just kind of random servers that are going to be open that we can go into, which is unfortunate because it would be awesome to be able to take in, you know, a party of 16 players to just play some private matches, but that ain't going to be happening. With no RSP, with no lobby, MMR system, anything like that, everything is going to be dependent on basically you just hitting the button and it throwing you into a match. And there are a lot of problems with that. First of all, as I said before, there's no ranking system. So it is expected in a brand new game that the first couple of matches that you go into, you're going to either get the shit kicked out of you or you're going to beat the hell out of the other guys. That's just the way it is. And then once you finally get your rankings kind of set up after about 6, 7, 10 matches, whatever it may be, then you're going to be starting to fight against players that are a lot more your level, and you're going to be fighting with players that are your level. That's not going to be the case this time. And I'm really disappointed that they're coming out with this type of game mode with us not having the ability to, at the very least, have private servers. Because what this is going to basically create is a incredibly imbalanced match. You're going to have maybe a few matches where they're going to be really fun and really intense. But what about those matches where you have a team that has absolutely no tanker on that squad? And then all of a sudden you have one of the best tankers in the game on the other side of the map. Not only do you have one of the best tankers in the game, but you have a guy who recognizes that, hey, he needs to rep that tank when he's going into combat. So all of a sudden you have this really good tank crew on one side against 8 infantry guys. That is going to be rough. Those 8 infantry guys are going to be really, really hurt because now you have to expect those 8 infantry guys. Well, they got to be making sure that they're having enough anti-tank. They got to be making sure that they're getting those heals off. You don't want to have too many medics, but at the same time, you don't want to have too many assaults because then you're going to need ammo on the ground. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to be coming into this because remember, this is going to be a much smaller map. So there's probably not going to be a whole lot of opportunities for depots to be on the ground for you to grab ammo and health from. So you're going to have to rely on teammates. Now, this is just me, you know, hypothesizing here, but that's the way I see it. So you're going to have team balance is going to be horrible in this game mode. My other worry is, are they going to allow parties? Am I going to be able to party up with 3 other guys, queue up for a match, and bring in and talk on comms with my squad? That's another thing that is going to be incredibly difficult to play against. If you have and we saw this in incursions, when they allowed, I think it was like 4-man parties or 5-man parties. I don't remember if it was full 5-man parties, but when they allowed parties bigger than just, you know, 2 people, it created this massive imbalance. And yes, that was 5 versus 5, but we're only adding 3 people here. And I'm really, really worried that what we're going to be seeing is basically empty servers by the end of the 14 days. And the reason why that worries me is not because, well, because I'd like to play it, but what will DICE think when they see that? You know, part of me believes, and this is just the hopeful part of me, because Lord knows I have been a proponent of competitive Battlefield forever. For 6, 7 years, I don't know, a long time, since 2011. So you add up the years. So basically, I see DICE, if they have very low numbers, going, oh, well, you know, maybe competitive Battlefield just isn't the way to go. People don't like this, so we can just scrap this idea without taking in all of the variables. Because without a ranking system, without team balancing, without having those private lobbies and private matches, without having all those things, it is going to be a very frustrating experience for players that are getting the crap stomped out of them. And it's also going to be a boring experience for the teams that are just rolling over other teams. It's just not going to be fun. And I'm really hoping that that's not the case, that they see this and they go, you know what? You know, maybe later on down the road, let's put in a matchmaking system. Let's put a ranking system in and give this another go. because I think that if they don't think of it that way, then we're probably never going to be seeing this coming back ever again. And I hope that they don't see it like that. But my opinion, my prediction is that by probably the 5th or 6th day, by next Tuesday, we're not going to be seeing anybody queuing up, and it's going to be a very horrible. It's going to be even worse experience then. All right, so that's all the worried stuff. So let's go ahead and get into some of the maps. Let's take a look at some of the maps here. All right, so let's take a look at some of the maps here, and the first one we're going to be taking a look at is Arras. So this, I believe, is the biggest of the 3 maps. It is in a circular formation. And when I say a circular formation, it means it's like a very rotation driven map. So if you're losing C, then you rotate to A. If you're losing A, you rotate to B. You just kind of keep going in the circle, outrunning the other team, or you're just running away from the other team, however it is. There are some pretty interesting, I think, problems that are going to be coming up with this particular map. So over here on the British side, it is going to be in the fields, very, very open. This line right here does indicate where the spawn area ends, but there is not a whole lot of cover, not a whole lot of concealment. And I'm hoping that they've put some stuff out here that you just can't see on the overview to kind of help out with this. Because I can see a team getting control of Bravo, getting control of Alpha, setting up their tank maybe somewhere here into the middle of the field, just kind of rotating back and forth. Because, one tank can actually sit up onto this ridge and pretty much control this whole entire area. You put about maybe 3 assaults up here and 1 support guy. And then over in this area, you can put, maybe 2 assaults, mine the hell out of this road so that your vehicle can't just pass on by. And this is going to be a pretty difficult hold to break out of, I think. And you're just going to be shot coming out of spawn in this scenario. So I'm really, really curious to see how this is going to be playing out. My biggest worry, like I said, over I think all of these maps are where the spawn locations are. This particular one, I do like the spawns. I just think that they need to have a little bit more cover. Over on the other side of the map, though, on the German side, I can see some nasty spawn traps coming out of this one. So just bear with me here. So just think of it like this. The tank is going to be pulling up, and he ends up getting onto the outside of A. He's going to be using this building here, and he's going to be able to back off and use this as cover because this building doesn't completely collapse. It does kind of stay up in ruins. And you're going to be seeing the road right here getting completely mined out here and here. So that's going to be preventing a lot of vehicles from coming out. I could see squads getting up inside this barn, inside this house, and this house over here. And then also some of the players kind of patrolling into this area. I can see assaults. I can see supports just mowing down infantry trying to come out. And then, of course, if you have a tanker with a rep behind him, he can pretty much just blow the tank out when he's trying to exit spawn. Because, I mean, really, where does the tank have to go? He's got 2 routes that are going to be safe and easy to traverse. He's going to have this route here, and he's going to have this route back here. Those are the only 2 routes. Those routes can easily be mined up, and they can easily be just completely rocketed down. Yeah, he can maybe drive through some of these buildings, but again, he's going to be in a very close quarter area. It's going to be very dangerous. If he tries to go out into this area, I could definitely see a tank just setting up and pounding away. And if that does happen, there's no breaking out of this, guys. I mean, it is just a nasty spawn trap. As opposed to the other side of the map with the British, I do kind of see this as something that can kind of come out. I absolutely can see a tank maybe kind of busting up through, trying to go over here onto Bravo. Or if you do have a very heavy B setup right here, maybe coming and flanking all the way around here onto Charlie using some smokes, get a very heavy infantry bomb over here because it's going to be very hard to react from this distance. But if you have people over here in these buildings and you have them over on A, remember, they are going to be able to spawn on team flags. So they're probably going to be able to get some A spawns, which will probably send them out back in this area. It's going to be fairly easy to reinforce this area. So kind of interesting to see how Arras may turn out. But this is definitely, I think, the more balanced of the 3 maps that we're going to be seeing. All right. So the next one is going to be on Hamada. So Hamada is fairly small. We are going to be seeing a lot more on the elevation levels being used. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to be playing out for Bravo, because Bravo is going to have basically, you can see everything from that particular area of the map. This does seem like it does have vehicles, so we are going to be having at least one tank available on both sides. Where the tank's going to be playing, it's going to have to be on the outside edges. Now, the biggest concern that I do see from here is, my God, look at where the spawns are on the C flag. Like, I don't really understand why they think that flags need to be so close to a main spawn, but that's pretty ridiculous right there. Like, and there's two things that I have a problem with it. One, I have a problem with it if you're an attacking team trying to rotate out. So if in a traditional like 3 flag map, we're going to use Bazaar from Battlefield 3 as an example. That's just because I have a lot of experience on that as a player. So if we were getting pushed on our gimme flag, which is the first flag that we come up on, the first response that we have is somebody who is on a flank to try and get a spawn bomb to go on. So we would squad hop, and we would have a squad bomb, and we would try and go for the other team's gimme. Usually one of those players are pushing up on one of the flanks, so either on side streets or on highway. Now, this would allow us to basically flip the map and play from the other side. We could do that because the spawns were a fair distance away from the actual flag, and we could pick off players as they were coming in. But looking at how close this is, that is damn close. That is like super close. It's going to be really hard to rotate out of a triple cap. And on the flip side of that, I believe this is some kind of a building, but you see this high ground right here? If the German side is able to get up onto this high ground and they get a triple cap going, how do you get out of this? How do you get out of this? So, if I was on the German side, I would mine the hell out of this road right here. I would set up some assaults. I would mine the hell out of this road right here. I would set up a couple assaults. You could put maybe 1 medic, 2 medics kind of rotating in between the two right here. And you can even have an MMG setting up, just laying down fire, constantly kind of bobbing around and just throwing a shit ton of lead over here into the spawn. Like, this is a nasty spawn trap that I can see coming up. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're the British and you're looking at like, this is going to be pretty tough to get a spawn trap. If you get A and Bravo, A and B, like, C is going to be very difficult to hold on to. Like, you're going to have to just be fragging like crazy in order to hold on to that. I see that being very, very difficult to keep any kind of a triple cap going down. Not that I want to see triple caps, just if you're going to allow it for one side, I feel like the other side needs to be able to do it as well. For a multitude of reasons. One of them that comes up to my head is just to be able to come back into the game. So in a system as to where you have the ability to have a higher cap rate with the more flags that you have, it allows you to, close the gap if you were down. I've been in matches before to where we were down 100 tickets and we were able to get a triple cap and bring it back. And while, we only won like maybe by 10 tickets, they did eventually get that gimme flag back, but it allowed us a lot of breathing room and a lot of opportunity in order to make that play. And I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but I'm saying that opportunity should be there. So kind of curious to see how this is going to be playing out, especially with the fact that you're going to be playing uphill from the British side. And I mean, I'm looking at this spawner area right here, and it's just brutal. I don't believe that there's any way. There may be a way that infantry can come up here, but your vehicle certainly can't. This is going to be out of bounds. Your vehicle does have to come out of, oh my God. So I could see a scenario to where, a support, maybe 2 supports get back in through here and they start throwing mines over into this road and this road right here, because you're going to have to come up into it in order to come out of their spawn. That's just going to be brutal. So brutal. The high ground here does kind of worry me. You might be able to shoot into the spawn over here for the German side. I imagine that we're definitely going to be seeing smokes having to be coming out to be used in this area. But if they have control of that Charlie flag, you almost got to think that they'll just be able to flank over, maybe come back in on the backside of B, and then come out of spawn as well. Maybe come into that Bravo side. There's a lot of areas that I see coming into that Bravo flag that I think you should be okay with. What's really going to be interesting is to see how effective a recon class could be on this particular setup. I could definitely see a situation where maybe one recon gets over there towards that Bravo, kind of in between Bravo Charlie, and can mess some people up. You know, he may not be able to get those kills, but if he's able to at least do damage to him, especially with the way the system of healing and reviving works, he can slow down pushes extremely fast. So that'll be interesting to see how this particular map plays out. This one I'm not too hot on. Like I said, this is my least favorite map so far that I have seen. So moving on to Rotterdam. This one had me scratching my head. So we were talking about spawns, and I'm looking at the spawn area for the Germans compared to the British, and I'm going, wow, that's going to suck. Because you can look at it two ways. The British are going to be spawn trapped back towards C the entire time of the map. So you can basically spawn in as Germans on Bravo and get up on top of that bridge, and there is just going to be no possible way that the British are ever going to be able to come out. The other way you can look at it is going, holy shit, the Germans are going to get fucked on this map. Because if they lose Alpha and Bravo, where do they go? They're not fighting on land. They're spawning across a bridge. If there are no spawns on this side of the map, if they have to cross this bridge, oh my god. This is going to be incredibly one-sided because it's going to be funneling them. I don't know if you guys remember, but on Scene Crossing, when you spawn trapped them on Scene Crossing, when you're playing a small Conquest version, it was laughable when you were the Russians doing it to the American side because they had two areas that they could come across the map. They could come across the bridge or they could swim. Either way, you're basically just demolishing them. There was no way that they could come out of that. And it was very, very frustrating as the Americans if you ever got in that position. I kind of see this happening right here for the German side in this map. Like, this does not look good whatsoever. Now, as far as the available playing space, I'm really interested to see how this does turn out. This area is pretty open in the base game, so I'm not really sure if they've added anything in this section. I hope that they have, because this is a pretty cool playing space. Now, granted, I think that the playing space here would have been much better. In my opinion, I think they should have kept Charlie, or like Alpha, and then Bravo, and then Charlie here. I think that this would have been a cool B flag site to play on. And then you just have your spawns here and have a spawn here. And that way it still keeps that kind of U feeling that we had in the base game Rotterdam. But the flags have been kind of just shoved up here to the top side of the map. And I think that could have been really, really interesting to see how that could play out. Obviously, your tanks could play up on the top side. Is there a tank spawn? There may not be a tank spawn on this map. This may be an infantry only. I'm only seeing a car spawn here instead of the gear symbol for a tank. So this could potentially be a tankless map. And in that case, you're just looking at pure infantry. And that's going to be very fun over here onto the Charlie side. I don't know. The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm kind of curious, because there's only really one lane that you can play on Charlie. You can play this outside lane. You can play this inside lane. There is one cut right here that you can go into, and then the outside. The buildings right here, you can't go into these courtyards. So this is a fairly static area to play in from. Over here on Bravo, it's going to be pretty open as well. So, you know, this bridge is going to be the highlight of the game. So I don't know if a team takes control of Bravo, it's going to be pretty difficult, because you can pretty much watch all of these areas from B, from this high-rise area. Over here on Alpha, there's not really a whole lot of areas to come out as well. I mean, you're going to have this open courtyard in this one lane. I don't believe that there is an alley right here in order to come out from. So you're really limited to what, 2, maybe 3, maybe there's an area up here that you can come out of, but you're limited to 3 areas for the Germans to come out from an A. That is, like I said, this is going to be brutal. So this map, I don't know. Eras is looking a lot better overall than what Rotterdam. I didn't really take that close of a look earlier, but man, this is definitely looking brutal. So anyways, guys, definitely let me know what you think down in the comment section below. This was kind of just a little bit of me talking, rambling about my thoughts on Squad Conquest and the maps. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down, all the other kind of good stuff. Definitely subscribe if you do want to go back for some more content. I am going to be having, hopefully, some Battlefield videos coming up this weekend of Squad Conquest itself. So if you guys want to check that out, definitely do so. And I am going to try and get into a couple of spectating matches. I know they're going to be public matches, but I really want to see what it's going to look like as a spectator. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching once again, and we'll see you guys in the next one.